So this might be kind of a wild thought, but
Sure.
is there a consideration in this soft power and the want for more soft power for the country to increase tourism?
I believe that's kind of um, lumped in with like sharing culture. Um, eh, when you start thinking about like think about I guess you're not as familiar with anime as I am, but there are
No.
certain tropes in anime that have now kind of become commonplace within anime. You have the Japanese
The
hot
hungry ones.
springs, you have the shrines, you have the food, you have which obviously now has spread to America. There's a fucking really good ramen place that just opened up around the corner from where I live.
Dude, I ate
There's
sushi for dinner tonight. No joke.
exactly. Think about like there's these influences that then portray this country as being such a magnificent place to be. So obviously part of the cause and effect is a increase in tourism, which I think Japan's GDP is very heavily dependent on tourism. If I remember correctly, I remember reading an article about that recently. It was kind of talking about there's not necessarily a stagnation in Japan's economy, but rather a stability in their economy, and a lot of it's very dependent on Japanese tourism. And you know the influence that Japan has had on us has been, you know, it sort of reverberates. Like I remember being in high school and being like, these fucking nerd weebs. What the fuck? Who gives a shit about Japan, dude? Now I have a fucking I. Fuck, hold on, I'll show you this. I don't know if this will show up on camera.
Oh, let's take off your
Um,
shirt.
I'm not going to take my shirt
Y'all
off.
are missing out today, Spotify.
This is, for those of you who don't know,
Is that
this
Naruto?
tattoo. This is the Anbu Black Ops symbol that Kakashi has tattooed on his arm. Kakashi is a is the uh is a character from Naruto who is fucking made up. And so I mean the influence has clearly like there's people who argue about the fact that the political side of Cool Japan really didn't work out. When you look at it from a financial perspective and them investing into Japan's culture, it really didn't work out. They lost a lot of money. I think they're still continuing. They're not really, you know, they're kind
I
of
mean,
breaking even. But when you look at it from a cultural dynamic, like, dude, Japanese culture and the idea, like, people will look at like the Nanjing massacre or you know, the Kanto massacre or all of the war crimes that were committed leading up to World War II or any of this stuff. They'll look at that sort of stuff and go, yeah, but they made One Piece. You know what I
true.
mean? Like, it's the Kanye argument all over again. He made Graduation. They made One Piece, so they get a fucking pass.
Dragon Ball Z is really just really fire, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it's got its ebbs and its flows, man. You get all of this cool media. There's also, I mean, there's been this mischaracterization within the culture as well. You started getting, you know, nowadays we talk about big anime titties like it's a fucking joke, but some of those big anime titties are on some young girls. Okay.
Mm.
There's the sexualization of the of the schoolgirl and youth. There's the issues that happen with there's a lot of fucking incest, a lot of incest in Japanese media and fan service, unnecessary at sometimes, you know, and that's kind of that's a product of a symptom that needs to be diagnosed in another video and looked at a little bit more deeply. But I think that kind of the conclusion to all of this is to um, never like obviously you should enjoy the media that we have now. I don't want I didn't talk about all this stuff. I didn't want to talk about all this stuff just to say fuck you Japan. How could you do all this horrible shit and then also influence us in such a way? Not what I'm saying at all.
No.
I just found it very interesting, but I think that people should be aware of their history, not even their history, just the
Yes.
history of the world.
Yes.
Um, Take a step back and dive deeper. One of the coolest things that I love to do in my spare time, and I don't have as much of it as I used to, but when I did this a lot more than I do now, was just look more deeply into things. Um, I saw a random fucking video that was like the cool Japan strategy, and I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. And here we go. Now we've talked about all of these things. Think critically, think for yourself, look deeper into something that you might want to look deeper into, and understand that there's none of this shit's a fucking coin. It's a D20 dice. There's so many sides to this. There's so many aspects of it. There's so many layers to this fucking onion that we call history in the world. And I think
want to add that applies to every country. Every country.
Absolutely. 1,000,000%. It's something to, you don't necessarily have to take everything with a grain of salt, but definitely take everything at deeper than face value. Right. And that was kind of the whole point of this. I think that it's very interesting to see, how Japan, I mean, fuck man, I've played through all the Dark Souls. I have a fucking anime tattoo. I plan on getting more anime related tattoos. I've read countless hours of manga.
I learned to read playing Pokemon, dude. I was in the kindergarten, first grade when that shit came out. I was on my Game Boy asking my grandma, how do you pronounce psychic? I said, how do you pronounce psychic, Grandma? I don't know what this means.
I just found it so interesting to think about the grand influence that this kind of tiny island has had on our lives, right? When you think about we did a whole episode on racing horse girls, right? That's an insane thing to think about.
A lot of Japan in this podcast.
A lot of Japan, man. They are cool. They've done some fucked up stuff, man. And I hope, I have hope. Again, I'm not going to get super deep into it because it's not my place. It's not my country. It is important to understand what's going on in the world, in my opinion. Don't live in a fucking bubble. Look outside of it every once in a while. What's going on in Japan is it reminds me a little bit of what we talked about today. There's still these scars of nationalism and national extremism that's kind of happening today. People love their fucking country. It's happening. Yeah, it's happening all around the world. I'm not telling anyone any way to think. I'm not saying that you should be one way or the other. But if you start reading things online and people are starting to call what you agree with extreme, maybe take a step back and think about your actions and think about how you're pursuing the world, and how you're viewing it. At the end of the day, fucking love one another and try and, enjoy the cool shit that we have, because everything is finite, and we don't want to make it any more fucking finite than it already is. You know what I mean?
I have been dialed in to this drama.
Communication is alpha.